Get Up Nation. My name is Ben Biddick. I am the creator and host of the Get Up Nation podcast, where I serve individuals, organizations, and societies to develop and sustain resilience and perseverance. I'm the co-author of Get Up, The Art of Perseverance, with former Major League Baseball player and CEO of Lurong Living, Adam Greenberg. The Get Up Nation podcast is brought to you in partnership with Dr6 where Navy veteran Eric Hadley is committed to serving first responders, veterans, and their families through a variety of nonprofit organizations. No stranger to adversity, Eric has fused necessity of coffee with his passion for public service. You're already purchasing coffee. Why not empower your coffee with purpose? Why not purchase coffee that not only has your six, but also has the backs of those who don a uniform of service for our communities and great country? Learn more about Eric and his freshly roasted, award-winning coffee at gotyoursixcoffee.com. Also coming out in July 2019 from Penguin Random House is a book I had the honor of writing the foreword for called Warrior's Book of Virtues, a field manual for living your best life. Combat veterans Nick Bennis, Matt Bloom, and Buzz Bryan share how lessons they learned during their service can help empower you into a life of deep and lasting virtue, no matter the obstacles you face. Available now for pre-order at the links below. Welcome to this episode of the Get Up Nation podcast. Recently, I had the honor and privilege of speaking with Travis Chambers. He's the founder, CEO, and chief media hacker of Chamber.media, the world's most powerful DTC growth and video agency. Travis and his team make a full funnel of social videos designed for driving conversions at scale, running them as ads on Facebook and YouTube. This enables Chamber.media to scale ad spend, driving millions in sales. At Chamber.media, Travis has doubled the revenue of 4 multi-million-dollar companies profitably. His content has more than 300 million views, 3 million shares, more than 15,000 press features, and more than $200 million in trackable sales. Travis led distribution and content strategy for YouTube's #1 ad of the decade, Kobe versus Messi, with more than 150 million views the last time I checked. Included in Forbes 30 Under 30 list, Travis frequently gives keynote speeches at conferences such as Inbound, VidCon, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Google Growth Summit, Vid Summit, and on podcasts such as EO on Fire, Thriving Launch, Daily Grind, and others. I am honored Travis has taken the time to share his journey of resilience today on Get Up Nation. Travis, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, good to be here.
Clearly, Travis, you are ultra successful in what you've achieved at Chamber.media to help members of Get Up Nation who are facing significant challenges in the pursuit of their success. I cherish the opportunity to share with them your journey of resilience. To start, will you share some of your experiences as a child with osteopenia imperfecta?
Yeah, so, man, I broke 9 bones by the time I was 13, and I was just like, God, what the heck is happening, man? And it was always like normal things, like a motocross accident, you know, or wrestling around or whatever not. So finally, we go get a scan, and we find out I got bone disease, man. I got brittle bones. You know, like, I don't know if you've seen that movie, Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson. And Samuel Jackson is Glass. So I had the exact same thing that guy got in that movie. You just break your bones, you got soft bones. So, man, it sucked. I was trying out decent at basketball, and I made the A team in 7th grade as point guard. And then that weekend, I broke both my legs in a motocross accident. Wow. And then the next year, you know, I get back, I try out again, I make the team, and I break my leg skimboarding. And I'm like, God, what the heck? And so that kind of crafted a lot of, I was kind of isolated in this rural town in Washington. My dad would travel 5 days a week. So it was just kind of like you're stuck in a wheelchair or on a cast. You can't do stuff. So then you just start to get creative, and you start to just decide, you know, who do I want to be, and am I going to figure this out? And so, you know, learn to play guitar, learn how to sing, learn how to do video editing, and we'd make motocross videos and put 2 VCRs together and edit VHS motocross. Somehow life just pushed me into a creative place, and some of the things I was dealing with at home, I turned to humor as a way to kind of cope with. I don't know if you read that book, Man's Search for Meaning, but the Frank Verkel, he talks about how the difference between the survivors and non-survivors a lot of times in those concentration camps from World War II was humor. So people that could just find the humor and how horrible everything was, they had a higher chance of surviving. So anyway, when I was a kid, I think all this stuff kind of put me towards humor. and have been just making funny videos. And it's funny because I'm doing the same exact thing for a living I was doing when I was 12 years old.
Today I was watching some of your content in the skin nerd piece that on your website. Oh, I lost it. It was so good. And obviously the world obviously shares that opinion. I mean, you've been ultra successful with all this. And so I just want to ask, you obviously had to face challenges as you built your business as well. So will you share some of the challenges you faced when you built what became Chamber Media?
Yeah, man. So I was at 20th Century Fox. I was 12. I told my parents I wanted to be the guy who made commercials for the movies. And I was 25 years old, director of social media at 20th Century Fox, and that was literally my exact job. I had my dream job, but it was a total nightmare. My dad was getting Parkinson's and cancer and divorced, and we were having a daughter, and I was working 70 hours a week in this job that I thought was a dream job, and I was missing out on all these early moments. Dude, I was so freaking miserable. And at the same time, I'm watching my dad, who had a rough marriage, not really the fault of his own by any means, and he worked at Monsanto for 25 years, started out as a field applicator applying Roundup with farmers as a regional salesman. Well, he got covered in Roundup all the time. 25 years later, he gets Parkinson's disease from it, and there's all these class action lawsuits Monsanto's losing now, proving that Roundup, the stuff you spray on weeds, causes cancer and Parkinson's. He gets the exact same kind of cancer that Roundup causes and Parkinson's. I'm watching him give his life to this corporation and then kind of losing his health. And after working all those hours and sacrificing all this time, and I was just like, this is not the way I got to do this. There is something wrong here. I'm making good money. I got the job I want, but I never see my family. So what's the freaking point? If all I want to do is spend time with my family, I can't do it because of this job, then what's the point of making good money? So I kind of got to the point, I was like, man, I would rather make less money and work 35, 40 hours a week and have some flexibility. I couldn't even get paternity leave. I couldn't even leave work for after my daughter was born because I was too new. And so I was like, dude, this is all just so messed up. I tried to look around, see if I could find a remote job. I read the 4-Hour Work Week, and then I read the $100 Startup. It's a book about how these companies start with just $100. And then I read Trust Me I'm Lying, True Confessions from a Media Manipulator from Ryan Holiday. And I'd had some really big successes in the last year at that time. So I was like, you know what? I can't find the job I want, so I'm going to make one. And I'm going to make a company that provides this type of job to everyone.
So early on, you used humor and creative expression frequently to help you be resilient in the face of adversity. As you got older and got into this business realm as an adult, did you still use humor and the same methods?
So when I was a kid, like all of us, I was in my default mode. I was just doing what my personality and genetics and everything just kind of had me do, And my default mode was to be kind of happy-go-lucky, carefree, making jokes, going out in the woods with a dirt bike and taping a huge VHS camera on the top of our helmet. And that was my default mode. But life changed my default mode. So here I am in college. I'm in a degree I don't really care about, studying stuff I don't care about because I've accepted that I need to go this safe career route. And I've been trained and told that I don't want to go into the creative field because you don't make money there. And so I was taking no risks, and I was just doing stuff to just go to college and get a job. However, my entrepreneurial flair kept poking out in college, and I had no idea that I was an entrepreneur. I had never thought I was. I'd never accepted that I was. I had never even talked to anyone about what it was like. I didn't even hardly know anyone that owned a company, really. But I look back now, and while I was in college, I started a painting company that didn't really make any money. I kind of got screwed in a lot of situations. Then I put on an MMA fight, which actually did really well. We had 2,000 people showing up to our MMA fight. We rented an ice hockey arena, and I actually did really well, but I didn't want to sell alcohol, and that's the only way you make money. So eventually I got rid of that. But I go into my job, and I'm like, I'm going to climb the ladder. I'm going to do the sure thing. I'm going to have a job. I'm going to be a stable family guy. That's the route for me. And then when all this happened, I realized, you know what? This isn't me. I'm an entrepreneur, and I am a creative. I was at Crispin Porter and McGusky, and I was a social media supervisor working on Kraft, Turkish Airlines, Vitamin Water, and a bunch of other accounts. Old Navy. I grew Old Navy from 2 million to 8 million Facebook likes. But I was there, and I wasn't allowed to do creative. So because I was a social strategist, there was a creative team. Those people were winning awards. They were really cool, creative people. And I was not allowed to touch that stuff because in the creative agency world, people are very territorial and very protective because ideas are what they're selling. And so people get very protective of their ideas. It's actually not a great environment, to be honest, for ideas. So I wasn't allowed to do creative. So at this point, I had no creative outlet. And at this point, I had accepted that I was not a creative person because I was told, don't go into graphic design. Don't go into film. I mean, I got accepted into USC's film school out of high school, but it was $60,000 a year. I was like, I can't do that. So I just went to a state school at Utah State and got a scholarship there. So anyways, man, I was in corporate mode. And when I broke free, you know, to be honest, I kind of sucked at creative. I just hadn't really practiced it. And it took me a year or two. And I just said, you know what, I'm a film director now. And like 8 months after leaving, I was directing a $120,000 film shoot for Nordic Trek with 50 treadmills in a huge barn. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I finally went back to default mode. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no training. I just was like, no, I'm going to do this. And believe it or not, Nerd Skincare was the first, like, hard-selling direct response video that we did. And still to this day, people think it's one of our best videos we ever did. And that, I directed, wrote, and produced that. Well, co-wrote with Laura Clary. She deserves so much credit for how good that is. But, dude, that was, like, one of the first ones we ever made. So it just goes to show you that, like, life and the series of things that you're taught and told, they can take you away from what it is you're really supposed to be doing. And the truth is if you get to what you're supposed to be doing, you can get good at it, and you can always make money. You can make money doing anything. How
liberating was that for you, too, to kind of slough off those things that weren't a good fit? It's like wearing a shirt that's too small. At the beginning, maybe you weren't as schooled or had as much skill in the craft, but then you honed it out of the love of that and the freedom that existed there. How satisfying was that?
Dude, you know what the biggest thing it was, the feeling was? Is I felt like I went from being lazy to not being lazy. Because when I was in that social media strategist position, and I kind of wasn't, first of all, I didn't have the experience or the chops to do creative. I couldn't have done it even if I wanted to, really. But, dude, I felt like I was lazy. I felt like I wasn't being productive. I wasn't fulfilling my potential. And it wasn't this feeling of, like, misery or any of that. I had a great time at Crispin Porter and McGusky. I was really contributing. I was really providing value. But I just, you know what I mean? I just, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, it almost felt like I knew I could run a 5-minute mile, but for one reason or other, I was running a 10-minute mile. And all I was allowed to run was a 10-minute mile. And so the second that I went out on my own, all of a sudden I could just go freaking pedal to the metal, and I could break stuff and learn stuff and just figure out things. And then it got, to be honest, over the top, where I was running a 3.5-minute mile and, like, breaking my ankle. Just, like, injuring myself to try and get a better time. And that's kind of what it felt like, being underwater for 2 years, just trying to get a breath. But that's what the feeling was, man. It was like, without doing what I was supposed to be doing, I felt lazy. Even though I was working really hard, I felt lazy. You know? Like I was wasting time.
So from your perspective, as you experienced that, now you have a team, you have lots of members of your organization. How do you get the best from your employees? Do you give them that freedom? Do you identify what makes them feel alive, where their heart is at? How do you help them be resilient to create some of the finest content that the world has ever seen?
Well, I'm sure there's people on our team that'll say I'm not very good at this, and I'm sure there's people on our team that feel stifled in one way or another. I don't think there's any way to avoid that. And I think people sometimes got to take their own destiny into their hands and they got to force their way into doing what they want. However, I can guarantee you that we've created a culture that's better than 90% of companies out there. I think a lot of it, too, is just because we're small. It's easier to do when you're small. But we've got a 4-day work week. So that gives people room to be creative, where they're not just stuffed full constantly of deliverables and to-dos. They've got 3 days a week to kind of like settle and for their brain to come up with ideas and things. And I'll tell you this, man, we've had a handful of people we've hired for one job, and we realized in a pretty short amount of time that they weren't very good at that. But in that process, we found out what they're amazing at. So we hired someone to be over all the clients. And this person was pretty good at that, but I could tell they didn't enjoy it. And that person started kind of gravitating to writing. And so you know what we did? We made her a full-time writer.
Awesome.
And, you know, there was a guy we hired to be an ad buyer, and he himself was like, dude, this is hard. You know, like, I don't know if I'm doing this. And his background was in project management. And so a few weeks ago, he's now senior project manager over all the ad accounts. And, you know, over time, he's not going to be doing a ton of ad buying. He's just going to be on the client side and manage the project because he is a freaking killer at that.
Nice.
And so I feel like we have tried, and it costs us time and money to do that, you know. But I feel like what we've tried to do is just say, all right, this person's actually really good at this. Rather than letting them go and getting someone else for this role, let's find a way to put them into like what they really are destined to do and what their default is, because we're going to get a value out of them in a way that we can't get by bringing someone new in. They're already in our systems. They're already in our process. They know the way of doing things. And I think that has been huge. And then the other thing, too, is we give our people a lot of autonomy. There's not really a super strict get here at the office at this time and leave at a certain time. People are kind of allowed to come and go. We encourage people to work at home or somewhere else a day a week so that they can be creative and get into a different environment and be around different people, because I think what happens sometimes at creative agencies is you go to work and you're around the same people all day, which means you have the same pool of personalities intermixing every day. And it gets to the point where you need to intermix with other people.
Right.
And you need those fringe opinions and those fringe ideas. And so the autonomy with the 3-day work week, I think it just allows people to get around, to go experience other things, rather than just being in the same spot every single day. So those are some of the things that I think we try to do to really help people feel kind of liberated and free. And, dude, it's like I'm at the point now where I'm going on trips with my family all the time. And, you know, the team, they see me doing that. And that, I think, can create a lot of envy and jealousy. And so I kind of feel like the fact that we have a 3-day work week gives people a little piece of what it feels like to have that lifestyle, where they can go and they can go do stuff that they want to do that you can't do when you only have a 2-day weekend, you know?
Amazing. What's the funnest part of your day?
Dude, I think the funnest part of my day, honestly, is talking to my top people. We've become best friends, and when we are trying to figure out a problem, or we're talking about forecasting or how exciting things are that are happening, and we're talking about the future and where we're going, that's the most exciting thing, man. It's like when you're a team, it's like when you're in a game, and it's a really important game, and you're up on over the other team, and you're starting to realize you're going to win, and it like brings you together, and everyone starts just collaborating. It's that like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a relationship you can't really have in many other environments. It is like a sports team. Like, you bond. You know what I mean? It's really cool.
When you think of all you've accomplished this far, what means the most to you? And when you think of your legacy, what do you think of as you work and grind and collaborate and connect?
Dude, honestly, I could have been so much more successful in what the world deems as successful by now if I hadn't have done what actually mattered to me. And when I left 5 years ago to do my own thing, I decided that all I cared about, I honestly decided everything is just a bunch of bullshit. Like, getting your title, getting your legacy, getting your prestige, your friends and family thinking that you're really successful and that you're so smart and you got your stuff together and stuff. when all that happened with my dad and the job and having my daughter and all that stuff, I just realized that none of that stuff freaking matters, and that most people are spending their lives because they want people in their inner circle to respect them and to respect their title and their job. And now you get some people who just love their job. My sister-in-law, she's an eating disorder counselor. She loves her job. There is nothing else on this earth she would rather be doing every day. She loves it. I think that's really rare. I think most people, they want to make money, they want to be important, they want to feel relevant, and I just decided I don't care about any of that stuff. All I care about is getting as much time with my family as possible and being there when they need me and have experiences and have memories and to have a good relationship with my kids and a good relationship with my wife, because for me, nothing compares to that, and everything outside of that is just complete bullshit. Yes, work is rewarding, it's fulfilling, it's important. We all need some kind of work in our lives to become who we're supposed to become, but at the end of the day, it's like, that's all I care about. In 20, 30 years, when my kids talk about me, or 50 or 60 years, or at my funeral, all I want them to say is, he cared about our mom, and he cared about us more than anything else, and nothing else was more important to him than us. And that's it. If I can achieve that, then my life was well spent and well worth it.
I love your mentality, Travis. This is such a breath of fresh air. And what a sacred thing for your family to experience the fullness of who you are, for you to be present, for you to just make them a priority like that. And that enjoyed time that a family spends, priceless beyond words. I love your mentality. I always end the show with 6 questions to help my listeners understand the why within my guests. Will you run through these 6?
Ben,
yeah.
Do you have kids?
I do. I have 2 daughters. Yep.
Oh man, daughters just get you in a way that no one else does, huh?
Most definitely. Yes, sir.
Oh man, they snuggle up, and do both your daughters just kind of just love dad too? Dad's just a man.
I would like to think that, and I do everything I can to make that happen. They're still pretty young, so one of the most blessed and sacred times of my day are those evenings, putting them to bed or telling them stories, or running around out on the summer night, having them jump in lakes and catch fish and do all sorts of things like that. I couldn't say from their perspective, but I do everything in my power to make that some spectacular moments, because it certainly is for me.
Ben, do you kind of feel like most of the people you know, or most people we see, get so caught up in achievement and success and prestige? Do you ever feel like just people get so? Dude, I just look back at America 200 years ago.
Uh-huh.
You got a farm, you got a little piece of land.
Yeah.
You're working the land with your family. You've got your neighbors. You got your church down the street. If you need a barn built, everyone's going to come around. They're all going to help build the barn. But pretty much your subsistence living. You're growing your own food. You've got a family doctor within 10, 15 miles.
Yeah.
If someone gets sick, they're going to come and they're going to charge you in today's dollars maybe $50, $100,
Yeah.
and if you die, you die.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's how life was.
Yeah.
And people were in the field with their family all day,
Right.
and then they went to school, and then and I'm just like, God, dude, everyone's so specialized now, and society's so modern, and so fast, and parents are just pulled away from their kids, and now you got 2 parent households now, and we're just pulled in so many directions now,
Right.
and you get caught up in it. I just feel like, I don't know, do you feel like that, man? Do you just people get so caught up
I do.
in that?
I do. When people talk about success, I think the truest concept of what success is exactly what you're talking about. It's not necessarily, what I love about you is you have accomplished amazing things, but you have your head on so right. You are enjoying the miraculous growth of your children and embracing every moment of their awakening into this world, while communicating to them how valuable they are and how much you love them. that nothing else takes precedence or priority over that moment of them in your arms, looking at whatever it is, fireflies or drawing pictures or whatever your children love to do. But I think isn't that the truest form of success, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't know if this ever happened to you where you're on the road and you're networking, you're at some VIP party, right? And everybody's talking and everybody's drinking, the music's loud, and you just kind of look around and you're just like, who freaking cares?
Yeah, it's quite empty. It can be quite empty at those parties.
Sitting on the grass looking at fireflies, just quiet with your kid. It's just like, there's just not, when you just compare the experience, that there's not even a freaking comparison.
Exactly. 100%.
And it's like so many people nowadays are missing out on that.
Right.
And it's just like, because it's like no one's told them that exists.
Right.
Their parents maybe were Gen X or baby boomers that were hitting the rat race hard, and I don't know, man. It's like sad.
Yeah.
And it's like we don't need to be as successful as we think we need to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the chamber does. We're due 4 or 5 million revenue this year,
mm-hmm.
but like if we did 50 or 100 million, it's not going to change my happiness.
Right.
The only thing that could change is that could change my stress level and my misery and the complication of my life. That's the only thing that could change. My happiness is not going to go up or down. All these studies show that above $70,000 a year, people's happiness do not go up.
Right.
And there's one study that shows that people that have 10 million plus, they report very, very slight happiness increase. So between 70,000 a year and 10 million net worth, there is no added happiness. And the sacrifice it takes to be a $10 million net worth individual, it's a big sacrifice, and most people never achieve that without old family money. So that's what we just got to realize is you get that 70,000 mark, your needs are met. Everything after that, success-wise, you just need to look at as a bonus, and it's not going to make you happier. And the only way you can be happier is to look outside of work, outside of success, outside of achievement, and look at those factors. Family, friend relationships, kid relationships, parents, grandparents, neighbors, strangers in the grocery store. How are we interacting with those people? And how are we taking care of our health, and how are we taking care of our mental health, and taking time to really reflect and to... Yeah.
Yes.
I want to hear more about your story, man.
Yeah. Well, early on in my life, I learned that what I perceived to be important was to live a life of compassion is the highest form of living, in my opinion. And so I don't see anything as being important really other than that. And with all the suffering and the disconnection that exists, like you were saying, where we miss the miracle of what this all is, and we miss the beauty of these moments where it's just the person at the grocery store where they may not even look you in the eye, and you take a minute to ask how they're doing. It's these things that make life worth living and to ease the burden of others. So basically what I did was I just sought to serve in every way I could. I sought to learn what destroys people, what builds them up, what makes them thrive, what makes them suffer. And I just have made it my mission to discover the most beautiful things in life that I can encounter, and then to give them to others and to set them free from things that give them less. So I've done all sorts of things and worn all sorts of hats and had all kinds of jobs and walked out on jobs and jumped into jobs and and committed to jobs for years, and I've done all sorts of different things. But at the end of the day, it's what you're talking about, that I think we all know deep in our core what's important, and that's people, and just being grateful and cherishing of the gift of being alive and being aware of being alive.
Yeah, man. It's so easy to just get stuck and caught up, and I feel like too, like the more time goes by, the easier it is to let stuff roll off my back.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like, the more and more stuff happens, you just get to the point where you're like, man, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to be alive, and my family's here.
Yeah.
You know, and so you were a veteran, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, I was a medic, and so I did all sorts of jobs. I did emergency management, so large-scale disasters. I helped coordinate response missions for those. I did all kinds of different things. Yep. But and what you're talking about really, so veterans, one of the big problems is veterans are taking their own life at a huge rate. And so what I wanted to do is largely, I wanted to go into the most difficult things there are, and I want to understand them so that I can help. And so we create a world where there is no need for war, basically, where we value life, and I didn't want to have terrorism happening, and so I wanted to create a world where we understand each other more and are effective in our solutions, and part of that is the connectivity that you're talking about and really valuing each other, and so that's part of my story. Yes. Yep.
And I knew a guy in LA, he was a veteran, and his PTSD was so bad he couldn't leave the house.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was kind of finding that out, I would go to his house. I just met this guy random, and I go to his house, and I'd be like, "Hey man, let's go to the movie." You know, trying to kind of be spontaneous to get him out. And I was like, "Dude, let's go to the movies, man." He's like, "Dude, I can't go to the movies. Like, I'll have the noise and all the people in there and that closed space." He's like, I'll have a total panic attack."
Right.
You know, it was just like I can't even. And it was sad, too, because I couldn't really relate, and I couldn't fully really be there for him because I'm not a veteran.
Right.
I haven't experienced. So
Sure.
So it was only so much I could do for him, you know?
Yeah.
And, but, man, the pain he was going through, like, it was just a miracle he was alive.
Right.
The stuff that he was going through. And
right.
I can't even imagine to think that there's 4 or 5 million, there's probably like a few million Americans that are dealing with that level of PTSD, you know, is heartbreaking.
Yeah. And it's powerful to go into those places. And what I love about you is your compassion there and your willingness to go there and connect and listen. That's the beginning of the solution. That alone, I used to work as a crisis negotiator, hostage negotiator too, and I would deal with people in crisis who, were under the influence of substances, who were depressed, suicidal, they're armed, they may have fired off a few rounds in their house, and they're just overwhelmed by everything, and their trauma get triggered and all these things. And I've also worked with sexual assault survivors and human trafficking victims, and in my experience of doing all of that, there is the power of listening, and how that alone has the power to do great good, just to listen with compassion and no judgment, and just to have them have their voice be heard. That's the start to beautiful things, and that's the start toward healing, and that's a way that lives are saved. And so you may not have felt like that was a big deal in comparison with the amount of need that was there, but to be that type of person who listens and is there with compassion, that is the beginning of really, really powerful catharsis and connection. So even that, I'm sure, was powerful for the gentleman that you interacted with. And anybody hearing your heart, I think, benefits from that. Just knowing that there's people like you who are alive and living the way you do, I think that's medicine for all of us.
And it's so hard, man. It's a hard thing to solve. It's what you're doing so amazing because you're helping people connect. And it's so hard to connect nowadays because we just don't have the same type of community that we had 50, 100 years ago. Right. Like, I got to be honest, whether people are listening, whether religious or not, doesn't matter to me. But people used to be pretty united on a community level. Right. And more often than not, it was church.
Yep, for sure.
But if it wasn't church, it was the Lions Club. Right. Or it was the Rotary Club. Or it was, everyone was in something. Right. Back then. And now nobody's in anything. Right. And like, maybe you connect with some people at yoga class. You'll connect with some people with your PTA. So we do still have those things, but on a neighborhood level, there's nothing bringing people together anymore. Right. So you have people that really need that community that just aren't getting it. Yeah. And if you got PTSD, you know, and it's hard to even go out in public and talk to people.
Right.
It's just even harder.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just rough. And sometimes I wish, it's just like urbanization is just really like made most of us less happy. You know, dude, my magnificent opus, it's going to be this. It's going to be solving victims of urbanization, the outsourcing of jobs and the automation and the low-skilled, low-educated, especially in cities, that workforce that they're just out, there's just nothing for them to do. Oh man, my dream is to just get a big piece of land rural, because I think rural living is a solution to this community thing.
Yep.
And creating like a sustainable housing industry and building a community based on.
Oh, I love that. It's that reconnection and finding that solid ground that I think is so vital, where so many people are so isolated and we get siloed and we lose sight of all the commonalities that we have where we can break bread. So divisive, the different political ideologies and the this and that, and we forget how when we just have a challenge in front of us and we just look to the person next to us, that no matter what ideology people have or what they claim or this or that, that when two people get together to overcome that challenge, you find so much more common ground, and it breathes life and gives health to both of them. And without any posturing or this or that, just authentic people facing challenges and being connected, I think your magnus opus is beautiful, and I think that's what we all need. So I applaud you and encourage you in making that happen, and certainly you're doing that with your family. And how exciting today you are getting an ultrasound done. You're increasing your tribe, you know, the children who will know your immense love as a father. Just tremendous. I just wonder at the world and the universe. I did not expect this conversation today. It's been a beautiful thing. It's an honor to meet you. It's been an honor to share this conversation with you, and I just appreciate your time.